What you're about to hear is a story that many people find hard to believe. It's the story of a man who claimed to have died, left his body, faced terrifying darkness, and then came back with a message that changed his life and the life of many others. Some say it was just the brain reacting to trauma, a kind of final dream before death. Others say it was something real, something that points beyond this world. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to tell you what happened. Before anything unusual took place, Howard Storm lived a normal and successful life. He was a tenured professor of art at Northern Kentucky University and the head of his department. He had spent years building a reputation as an artist and teacher, earning the respect of students and colleagues. But for all his success, there was one part of his life he never accepted: religion. Storm didn't just ignore faith, he actively rejected it. He considered belief in God to be foolish, and he often looked down on those who had spiritual views. He believed in science, logic, and self-reliance, and saw no reason to believe in anything beyond this life. In June of 1985, Storm traveled to Paris with a group of students for what was supposed to be an exciting and educational art tour. After lunch one day, while resting in his hotel room, he suddenly felt a sharp and overwhelming pain in his abdomen. The pain quickly became unbearable. He was taken to a local hospital, where doctors eventually discovered he had a perforated duodenum, which is part of the small intestine. But at the time, Storm had no idea what was happening. All he knew was that something inside him had gone terribly wrong, and he felt certain he was dying. At the hospital, things didn't go as expected. Because it was the weekend, there were no surgeons available to perform the emergency operation he needed. Hospital staff gave him vague answers, asked him to wait, and seemed in no hurry to act. As the hours passed, the pain grew worse, and Storm began to feel weaker and more hopeless. Lying in a hospital bed, barely conscious, he looked at his wife and told her he loved her. He wasn't trying to be romantic. He was saying goodbye. Then, feeling the end was near, he closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes, something was different. He found himself standing in the hospital room, looking at everything from a strange angle. That's when he noticed that the body on the bed, unmoving and connected to medical equipment, was his own. His wife was standing beside it, crying, but he felt no pain or fear. In fact, he felt more alive than he had ever had. Then he heard faint voices coming from the hallway, calling his name and inviting him to follow. He saw several shadowy figures standing in a distance. They didn't look threatening, so he stepped toward them. Storm followed the figures as they led him into a long, gray hallway that seemed to stretch beyond the walls of the hospital. At first, the experience felt calm, almost peaceful. But as they walked further into the hallway, the surroundings began to change. The light faded, the air grew colder, and the figures' voices turned from kind to mocking. The hallway narrowed and darkened. Storm started to feel uneasy. Suddenly, the figures turned on him. They began to surround him and attack, not physically, but emotionally and spiritually. They shouted cruel words, accused him of past failures, and reminded him of every selfish and hurtful thing he had ever done. What Storm experienced next was not just pain, but something he described as complete inner collapse. He felt as if he had no defense, no excuses, and no strength left. The pride and confidence he had built his life upon were gone. He realized he had lived for himself, and now he was facing the consequences. Surrounded by darkness, feeling hopeless and afraid, he did something he hadn't done in decades. He prayed. It wasn't a long or formal prayer. In a whisper, he said the only name he could remember from childhood: Jesus. The moment he said that name, everything changed. A light appeared, not just from above, but from all directions at once. It was brighter than anything he had ever seen. But it didn't hurt his eyes. It felt warm, safe, and alive. The attacking figures vanished. The fear disappeared, and in the center of the light, a being stood. Storm didn't see robes or wounds, but he knew immediately who it was. He later said he recognized the being not by sight, but by love. It was Jesus, and he knew everything about Storm, every mistake, every regret, and still he loved him completely. After Jesus embraced him, Storm says other beings of light appeared. They were filled with joy, peace, and kindness. They communicated with him, not using words, but thoughts that entered his mind clearly. They answered his questions and took him on a journey through what he called the spiritual world. He asked about time, about suffering, and about the meaning of life. Some of the answers stayed with him, while others faded like a dream. But one truth, he says, never left. God is love, and we are here to learn how to love. Storm was then shown his life, not like a movie screen, but as a living experience. He saw every moment from childhood to adulthood, but not just from his own point of view. When he had hurt others, he felt their pain. When he had ignored someone, he felt their loneliness. But when he had shown kindness, even in small ways, he felt the joy that kindness created. This life review wasn't meant to punish him. It was meant to help him understand the impact of his actions. He was asked one question, "What have you done with your life?" But the question wasn't meant to shame him. It was meant to guide him. Many experts are cautious about stories like this. Some scientists believe near-death experiences are caused by chemical reactions in the brain as it shuts down. Others suggest it could be a way the mind comforts itself during extreme trauma. Some psychologists argue that what people see during these experiences often reflects their upbringing or cultural background. Since Storm had grown up attending church, they say it's possible his memory of Jesus came back when he was afraid. These are reasonable theories, but Storm insists that what he experienced was not a dream or a trick. It was something far more real than anything in this world. Eventually, Storm was told he had a choice. He could stay in the light, or he could return to life on Earth. At first, he begged to stay, but he was shown what his life could be if he went back, a life filled with purpose, service, and love. He agreed. In an instant, he was back in his body. The pain returned, the surgery happened, and when he woke up, the world looked the same, but he was not the same. Storm began to rebuild his life from the ground up. He left his career in academia and entered the seminary. He became a minister, not a preacher who stood above others, but someone who had seen both darkness and light and now wanted to help others find the same truth. He said that hell is real, but love is stronger. He believed that God is not angry or far away, but closer than most of us realize. He began sharing his story, not to become famous, but because he felt it might help someone else. His book, My Descent into Death, was published and read by people around the world. Howard Storm still lives quietly, occasionally speaking at events or churches when invited. He doesn't claim to have all the answers. He admits that much of what he experienced is hard to explain, and some of it even faded from memory. But the most important part, the truth that changed him, has remained clear. He says that the soul survives, that life has meaning, that love is the reason we are here, and that even the proudest, hardest heart can be opened by a simple act, a single whispered prayer in the dark. What do you believe? Are these experiences simply chemical reactions in the brain? Or did he really live them? Leave your answer in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.